Well, good morning and welcome to this meeting of the Stewartry Area Committee on Wednesday, the 20th of March. I'd like to let you know at this point that this Area Committee meeting will be live streamed on Teams and that a recording will be available shortly after the finish of the meeting. Members may notice that when calling members to speak, I will refer to them formally and using their title, e.g. Councillor Smith, so that it's clear who are councillors and who, by the process of elimination, are officers. Remote participants, please follow the Code of Practice guidance, which includes muting microphones and switching off your video when you're not addressing the meeting, writing, speak in the Teams chat function when you want to contribute if you're in the hall, or you can do this on your iPhone or iPad. Please don't repeat contributions already made by other members. No material should be posted in the chat function if it is intended as part of the discussion. The usual standing orders apply, including that any votes will be undertaken by roll call. If any member has to leave the meeting, please either leave the Teams meeting for that period of time or write leave in the Teams chat function and then join when you rejoin the meeting so we can keep track on whether the meeting is quorate. All members should speak clearly, taking their time and speaking directly into the microphone when making contributions. When referring to reports, please provide reference to the relevant page and paragraph to allow everyone to follow. Please focus contributions on areas where clarification is required or to propose an alternative recommendation. This morning, we have a ward youth councillor, Stuart Walker, in attendance. Welcome this morning. Are there any other participants online? I think we also have Neve Whelan. Welcome too. Moving on to agenda item number 1. Sedran apologies and Chair's approval of members' remote participation. Could I ask the clerk for the Sedran apologies and which members are in the room and those linking by Microsoft Teams, please?
Okay, thank you, Chair. Good morning, everyone. I can confirm we've got 9 members present this morning, 7 here in Kirkcudbright, 2 members online being Councillors Blake and Young, and as the Chair has already indicated, we have 2 youth councillors present today, Val Walker here in the room at Kirkcudbright and Ada Whelan attending online. Thank you.
Thank you. And I confirm my agreement in remote participation. Number 2, declarations of interest. Do members have any statement of connection or declaration of interest to declare based on the definition? Please, Councillor Stitt.
Thanks, Chair. It's item 11 on the agenda items S1, S4-06. It's reports from the Stewartry Sports Council where I'm the Chair, and also S310. I'm the council representative on the Community Initiative Board, but I'm still staying in for the day.
Thank you. Councillor Lowe.
Thank you. The same for the Stewartry Sports Council, reporting item 11, statement of connection as a representative.
Councillor Howie.
Likewise for Sports Council for myself.
Councillor Drysdale.
Likewise for myself. Thank you.
Online participants? No. If not, then we'll move forward to the next item. We're on item 3. Minutes of previous meeting from the 15th of November 2023. Members are asked to note the minutes from the last meeting.
Happy to note.
Councillor Howie, thank you.
Happy to note, Chair.
Item 4. the Scottish Fire and Rescue Service Stewartry Area Performance Report from April the 1st, 23 to 30th of September 2023, report by Head of Governance and Assurance. Our first report, 6-month performance report from the Scottish Fire and Rescue Services, covering from April 23 to September 23. I'm pleased to note that the Scottish Fire and Rescue continue to disaggregate data and produce a report specific to the Stewartry Area Committee along with region-wide reporting. That is appreciated. It's also good to see comparators with other areas and wards. I'm sure all members will be reassured to read that overall there has been a slight reduction in the total number of incidents reported in the Stewartry. Unwanted fire alarm signals incidents have reduced by 30%, and there have been fewer accidental dwelling fires with 0 fire fatalities and 2 casualties with mild smoke inhalation. It is, however, concerning to see that deliberate fire setting appears to have increased. It would be good to hear more about the preventative measures being taken, for example, upstream with schools and the fire cadets. Claire McNay is in attendance via Microsoft Teams to answer any questions from members. I'll open the floor to members' questions and comments. Oh, welcome in person. We're delighted to have you in person. My apologies. So we'll open the floor to members for questions and comments. Councillor Lowe.
Thank you, Chair. And maybe have asked this before, but clarification. Abbey Ward obviously straddles both Nithsdale and the Stewartry. So are those the figures for the whole of Abbey Ward, so they're not split between the two areas? Because obviously there's two ends of the ward. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Lowe. It's not split, it's just that is Abbey Ward, so that's the figures for the whole of Abbey Ward that you've got on that report there.
Are there any other questions or comments? Councillor McFarlane.
Yeah, thank you. Just had a look at the report, and there's nothing very dramatic in there. Everything seems to be sort of ticking along quite nicely. The only question I'd have, well, a couple of questions. Firstly, is in relation to the on-call retained duty system, whereby Gatehouse seems to have a bit of an issue on a Monday to Friday, where it's really, really low. It's the worst performing of all of the stations that you have, and it doesn't perform particularly well at weekends either. Now, I've just been reading the part on how you're recruiting and such like, and the fact that one person can make a difference. So I'm wondering how bad is that, and do we have a plan to try and address some of that? And the only other issue I'd ask about is the interlinked fire alarms. Are we finding that most people have actually got them, or is that still an issue for us?
Thank you for the question, Councillor McFarlane. With regards to Gatehouse, I can confirm that things have improved since that reporting period. We have done a lot of recruitment drives. We have done leaflet drops. Obviously, you'll appreciate it's very difficult when people are working out with the town of Gatehouse, so they're away for the primary employment. There's not so many jobs there that will keep people there during the day. The weekends has certainly improved. We have got 2 people in the recruitment process at the moment for Gatehouse, so things are looking quite promising. So that should be improving. As for your question about the interlinked alarms, I'll pass you on to Tony because that's his remit, if that's okay.
Yeah, thanks for that. Yeah, interlinked alarms, it was brought out 2 years ago and by the government. And obviously it's down to the household responsibility to have that. It's not the responsibility of the fire service. It's not the fire service is implementing it. So it's really down to the homeowner. We do home fire safety visits and we give advice accordingly. If they own the property, it's their responsibility. If it's a landlord, then it's down to the landlord or whoever you're renting the property from. We do support high-risk home fire safety visits by fitting interlinked systems from the fire service, but you need to be high risk on the risk rating form. So hopefully if I answer your questions.
Councillor Campbell.
Thank you, Chair. I'll withdraw my question because it's just been covered following Councillor McFarlane's question. Thank you.
Were you happy with the answer, Councillor McFarlane?
Yeah,
Councillor Dries.
Thanks very much, Chair. It was just to speak to yourself, Claire, on page 19. I wanted to thank you for the efforts that were made for the Galloway crew attending the Loch Ken Awareness Day in July after the unfortunate incident on the Loch. I was just, I really do congratulate you for that. The work that everyone's, collaborating on together is really important, especially with a busy season ahead. I think we'll see that again, the busyness and the activity around the Loch. So I was just going to ask you, Claire, are you continuing or have you had constant communication from the Loch Ken Trust, the key stakeholders and DRACs going forward? Thanks. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you for your question, Councillor Drysdale. The work is continuing to for the multi-agency incident response guide. That's ongoing. I will again pass you on to Tony because he's more involved in the project than I actually am personally. Okay.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, ongoing work is done. Drowning incident review is taking place today. The multi-agency incident report guide is in draft at the minute and being shared with partners. And that is basically for response on the Loch by emergency services. Regarding ongoing activities, we've got it planned again this year for the open day. It's in the pipeline, and I know to answer the question that there has been a group formed. I'm not sure what they're going to be called, along with the Loch Ken Trust and all the stakeholders and partners in the area are formulating a plan at the minute to put it together to go back to supporting what happens in the Loch. So I'm not sure the name they're going to use, but it's going to be like a partnership round about the Loch again, being organised at the minute.
Thank you. Councillor Drysdale.
Thanks, Chair. Yes, I'm seeing that going forward. There's been a bit of communication to us as councillors on that. So, yeah, it'll be interesting to see how that pans out in the next month, and hopefully it will move positively in the right direction. And you are going to continue to teach children within our schools, water safety management, because cold water shock is one of the most common incidences of death on cold water areas in Scotland. So I really appreciate the work you've done on that alongside those groups. Thank you. Thanks, Chair.
Yeah, thank you for comments. Yeah.
Councillor Howie.
Thanks, Chair. Claire, it's just to express the appreciation of you housing the defibrillator at New Galloway Fire Station, doing all the work that was required to get that wired in. Certainly defibrillators so important in our rural communities where there is issues getting ambulance staff out there in time to tackle cardiac arrest. So the more we can get out there, the better. And thank you for your support in getting that installed in New Galloway.
Thank you for your comments, Councillor Howie.
Are there any further comments or questions? If not, then we'll move to members' recommendation that members are asked to scrutinise the performance report for Stewartry from the Scottish Fire and Rescue Service for period 1st of April 2023 to the 30th of September 23 as detailed in the appendix. Are members happy to agree the recommendations?
Agreed.
Thank you. Item 5. You're excused. Thank you. Thank you for your attendance this morning. Take care. So item 5, 6-month assessment, 1st of April 23 to 30th September 23 of Economy and Development Service Plan 2023 to 2024, report by Director, Economy and Resources. Our next performance report is from Economy and Development with their 6-month performance report. This report covers performance from the 1st of April 2023 to the 30th September 2023. As always, this report covers a range of services and projects that are vital to helping our communities prosper and thrive. The service plan includes 9 projects that the Economy and Development Service is delivering. Performance of these projects is summarised as follows: 2 completed, 5 on track, and 2 not met, but within acceptable limits. There is a great deal of detail here that members will be very interested in. Local place plans, local housing strategy and work taking place across the 4 detailed sites, and the work ongoing to identify new pipeline projects. Borderlands Inclusive Growth Deal, Natural Capital Programme, Core Paths, Dalbeattie Rocks and Wheels Project, Casfern Rural Skills Centre. I'm sure members will have questions and comments, so I'll open the floor right away. Simon Fieldhouse and Sarah Jones Alsop are available online to answer questions from members. And I'll open the floor to members' questions and comments. Members, any comments? Councillor Stead.
Thanks, Chair. It's page 41 under local housing strategy. I was just wondering if anybody online's got updating the DG, Dumfries and Galway Council progress and design works for the replacement of the culvert. I know this has been a flooding issue in the last 2 years, but I'd welcome any kind of house in Dalbeattie, and I'd like to know if there's any update when this culvert's got to be replaced.
I'll hand over to you for a response.
Thank you, Councillor. My apologies. A colleague from Housing. Sorry. Are you getting interviewed?
Morning, Sarah Jane. It's Ingrid here. Just to say that your connection isn't great.
Hold on a moment. I'll put my headset.
That's better. That's better.
That better?
Yep.
Okay. Apologies. I think I'm having speaker issues. Councillor, I'm afraid my colleague from Housing was unable to join this morning. So if you, what I will be able to do is take that question away regarding the site in Dalbeattie and the culvert and get a response to you offline. That's okay.
That's fine. That's fine, Sarah. Thanks very much, Dan.
Thank you.
Councillor Young.
Thank you, Chair, and a very interesting report. Can I draw people's attention to page 42, 4.5.7, and it's good to know that Castle Douglas is going to be one of the places for a new business site. As an elected member, I have no knowledge of where the potential siting of the site might be. Is it in the town or is it out Castle Douglas at Abercrombie Road? I wonder if you could shed some light on where the physical site of this will be. There's an awful lot of background difficulties.
Thank you, Councillor. My understanding is that site negotiations are still underway in relation to the preferred site in Castle Douglas. At this time, we can't actually disclose publicly the specific site that is under entry. But I would say that it is within the town boundary.
So it's the site within the town rather than the town. Thank you.
Okay, Councillor Drysdale.
Yeah, thanks very much, Chair. It goes a bit on the back of Councillor Young's comments and questions for the officer. So on page 41 on 4.5.2.2, we noticed that the Cunningham Housing Association had been no longer to deliver the project that was going ahead. And I suppose we're feeling a bit more positive after we've seen the Academy Street development bylaw on housing, which has been really much appreciated in Castle Douglas, as we have an absolute dire shortage of 2 and 3 bedroom homes for families wishing to use the primary and the secondary school and out with the area with the current situation we're seeing. So on 4.5.2.2, is there any feedback as to the Cotton Street site at all, Sarah Jane, in that, are there problems with the ground conditions there? That seems to be what I was picking up in through the press. So could that site possibly be completely abandoned from now on, or do you think it could still be looked at? Possibly you're not able to answer that question, but it's just concerns we have within the community. We've got a lot of people waiting for housing just now, as you know. Thank you. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor. Yeah, my understanding is that there were issues with that site in relation to remediation of the ground conditions before a build could start. And Cunningham have decreed that the site is not financially viable for them to develop at this time with the level of support that's available. I am unsure with regard to future plans. I would need to refer to my colleague Jamie Little, but I could find out that for you and refer back to you offline.
Thank you, Sarah Jane. Councillor Howie.
Thank you, Chair. Morning, Sarah Jane. A couple of issues. Place plans, Bittlequest will have seen in the press that the issues that are originating out of Palnaki with the harbour situation down there is just wanting to ensure that Bittlequest are getting all the support they require from the council and further developing their place plan on that. Just an assurance on that front. And secondly, on another issue on core pathways, is it possible for you to be able to provide maps of where these core pathways are across the region, because we're constantly being asked as members where are these paths and what is the council's responsibility for maintaining them. But obviously, before we can answer that, we need to know where they are. So if that could be provided, that would be very welcome.
Thank you, Councillor. With relation to your first point, the police team sits within the Strategic Economic Investment Service, which I'm part of the project development team. There are a team of 3 officers and a team leader who are there to support the development of the local place plans and the Borderlands place plans. So my understanding is that an officer will be available to provide support as required. So if Bittle West are requiring some advice, some signposting, some support to help them shape their place plan, there will be an officer available to field those questions and provide support. In relation to the maps for core paths, I will pass that on to my colleagues in the environment team, and we will get back to you offline.
Lovely, thank you.
And over to Councillor Campbell.
Thank you, Chair. This is the second time that one of my questions has been pinched by fellow councillors, but just on core paths, I've noted increasingly over the last year or so concern, particularly expressed in community councils, about the condition of core paths. And I know that some communities are keen to support the council in terms of maintenance because they regularly use these core paths. But there's a lot of uncertainty about whether they can do that, whether the landowner has any responsibility adjacent to the core path. So it'd be quite good on top of the taking offline with Councillor Howie. I think it'd be helpful if I could have the opportunity to have that discussion so that I can relate that back to community councils. Thanks. And the other point I was going to make on 4.5.9, it's more an observation, Carsfairn Rural Skills Centre. I was really happy to hear that yesterday at E&R Committee a £130,000 grant was agreed by the committee to support this particular project. And as members will know, this is particularly topical because part of this project is about providing training and skills for young people in the Glen Kens to enable them to find work locally. And it's very much a topical issue at the moment around the future of Dalry Secondary. But I'm really delighted to see that this work is being supported by the Council. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Campbell. Sarah Jane, would you like to reply?
Thank you. I will make sure that I add the points regarding the core paths within my request to the environment team to ask for a discussion regarding the requirements of landowners, how the community can become involved in upkeep, and what the council plans are for upkeep and maintenance of the core path. Thank you very much for your comments in relation to Carshfairn rural skills. That was an announcement that was agreed yesterday for £131,000 in support from the Place-Based Investment Programme. That was a project that's been handled by our team. Thank you.
Would you like to respond?
Yeah, if I could just come back briefly. I'm just wondering if, in terms of the environment team reporting back on the core paths issue, I wonder if that could be shared with all members of the area committee, because I think we've all got core paths. I think having some sort of access to a map would be really helpful, but also the clarification around, you know, when community councils ask us the questions about responsibilities. I think, looking around the room, I think most members would welcome being included in that. So, thank you.
Yes, Councillor, thank you.
Sarah, is that okay? Okay, other comments? Councillor Drysdale.
Thanks, Chair. Yeah, just coming back in on 4.5.5 on page 42, Sarah Jane. I think I'm correct in saying the wording should be Sandy Hills, but perhaps there's another section of core path I don't know about, but I'm going to assume it's Sandy Hills, not Sand Hills. And that's a part of, yeah, that's fine. That's a part of path that I have been going on about for a long time, because there's a couple of really dangerous pinch points where there's no fencing. It really needs sorted before the spring and the summer, before we have someone tip over the edge. I've seen it a couple of times nearly happening. But also to say about that particular starting point for the core path, just so officers are aware, the parking is really limited now, because obviously there was looking for some development from the caravan park. So we have to now encourage people almost to take the bus from Rockcliffe to get to that start point for that core path. You know, parking can be a wee bit of an issue, because obviously there's charges now put in place. So I think going forward, it might be worth ward officers for that ward having a wee look at what can be done there, because there's going to be a heck of a backlog, I think. But just to bring that up, thank you very much, Chair. Thanks, Sarah Jane.
Thank you, Councillor. I'll pass that feedback on.
Hello, Stuart Walker.
Thank you. 2 points. First off, I wish to express my agreement with Councillor Campbell on the Carshfairn Rural Skills Centre, and wanted to inquire on whether or not there would be efforts for that to be addressed in, for example, the local academies and centres, so that youth do know of it, as I do know many of my fellows and colleagues did not previously know of this centre being given support. Thank you.
Thank you. Sarah Jane, would you like to respond?
Yep. Thank you. The plans for the centre are just under development, and as I say, the money was just awarded for the construction contract to go ahead yesterday at Economy and Resources Committee. My understanding is that the group are in partnership plans with local colleges, schools, to understand how best to make the services and the courses, the pre-apprenticeship opportunities that the centre will deliver available to local students within the future. So those partnership talks are underway.
Would you like to reply?
Thank you. Apart from that, I also wish to go back to the mention of 4.5.22 on the removal of the Cotton Street in Castle Douglas. I was wondering if there will be a efficient alternative for that, as I know many of the people are still awaiting housing in Castle Douglas, and there has not yet been brought forward another project in place of that one. Thank you.
Thank you. I will refer to my colleague within housing to understand other sites which may be available within the ship within Castle Douglas, and whether they have future plans to address the site issues with the Cotton Street. So it's all right, Councillor. I'll get back with you, but offline through my colleagues in housing.
Thank you, Sarah, and thank you for your valuable points raised there. Stuart, thank you. Councillor Blake.
Thank you, Chairman. First of all, it's the kind of the normal practice that must has been for remote. We put it on the chat function. I did about 12 minutes ago, but so I think that chat links maybe been missed somehow. And secondly, just a general comment about the transmission. The signal from Kobe is perfect.
Councillor Blake, could you just hold one moment? Just hold one moment, Councillor Blake. Can I check the chat function?
Councillor.
Okay, we'll just go ahead then, Councillor Blake.
Oh, okay, thank you. I'm saying about the signal today from council chambers is perfect if you hear everything. Absolutely anybody out with that, especially with council officers, is almost unreadable.
Yeah.
It's in relation to the point that Councillor Stitt raised, and he was going to get feedback. I was only going to ask, could that feedback be given to the other two local members for what to?
Sorry, Councillor Blake, could I ask you just to repeat that last bit again for me, please?
Yes, certainly. I appreciate it's difficult with the signal today. In relation to the response given to Councillor Stitt about the culvert, could that response also be given for the other two ward members?
Yes, Councillor. We'll make sure that's sent
So
out.
that would
to
be
the
the response from
councillors.
Councillor Stitt. Would you like to give a reply? No?
So just to be clear on what the request was there, that was, if I've got this right, Councillor Blake, was that a response would be given, as would be to Councillor Stitt, to the other ward councillors regarding the culverts in the Abbey ward.
Yes, that's correct. All three of us have a real interest in this one.
Yep. I can make a comment.
Just to be clear, I think Councillor Stitt's query was about the Port Road at Dalby. Yes, and at the culvert, bottom of page 41. Okay, thank you.
Councillor Blake, are you happy with that?
Yes, certainly happy, thanks.
Well, if we can then move forward and move to recommendations, members are asked to, under 2.1, review the 6-month summary of performance for the Stewartry area for the 1st of April 2023 to the 30th of September 2023, as set out in paragraphs 4.3 and 4.4 and the appendix. 2.2, consider the area-based achievements and developments as detailed in the key achievements section of this report, paragraph 4.5.1 to 4.5.9, and 2.3, consider any aspects of performance to be referred to the relevant service committee. Are members happy to agree the recommendations?
Agreed.
Moving on to item 6, 2023 to 2024 6-month assessment from April the 1st, 23 to the 30th September 2023 of Community Services Service Plan for 2023-24, report by Interim Head of Community Service. We now turn to item 6, the Community Services Service Plan Performance Half-Year Report. This report covers performance from the 1st of April 2022 to the 30th of September 2023. As always, this report covers a range of services and projects that are vital to helping our communities prosper and thrive. I'm pleased to see that indicators are all on track with no exceptions. Again, we see the work ongoing to support a number of communities across the Stewartry and to develop place plans. We can see that 94.48% of young people have reported an improvement in their confidence, skills, individual, family, community, or working life after participating in youth work and lifelong learning activities. It's important that our young people are supported beyond school to build their interpersonal and work skills. I'd also like to highlight the support to community asset transfers, which empower communities to take ownership of council properties and land. You can see in the report that there are a number of active applications within the Stewartry area. Liz Hanson, Interim Head of Community Services, is available to answer members' questions and comments. Members, any comments? Councillor Howie.
Thank you, Chair. Morning, Liz.
Morning.
Liz, page 51, 4.5.2, the one asset transfer which appears to be getting bogged down a wee bit is the Castle Douglas Centre print room annex. And there seems to be some issues in moving this forward. Have you any update on this particular application?
Not the specifics at this moment, but obviously very happy to provide members with details out with the meeting. Thank you.
Thanks, Liz.
Councillor Howie, is that okay?
Yes, Chair, thank you.
Councillor Drysdale.
Thank you, Chair. Just to follow up on Councillor Howie's point, page 51, with regards to the print room and annex, Liz, thank you for giving us an update after this meeting. We have managed to find an interim space. I think I might have mentioned that to you. So if I could take that offline with you after this meeting, because I think it's really important going forward. We have had some issues with our youths waiting for an awfully long time now in Castle Douglas for a space, and I know we're all aware of that, especially while we wait for the curling workspace. Stroke, Cranach, or whatever it may end up being called. So if I could speak to you offline, I'll send you an email after this meeting. And
yeah, very happy. And yes, as you said, Councillor Drysdale, we are actively looking for premises for additional youth work in that area. And yes, while perhaps this isn't a solution at the moment, we're exploring a number of different avenues.
That's perfect. Thanks, Liz. Thanks, Chair.
Councillor Drysdale, are you content? Thank you. Thank you, Liz. We'll now move to recommendations. Members are asked to 2.1 review the 2023 to 2024 6-month summary performance for the Stewartry area for the 1st of April 2023 to the 30th of September 2023, as set out in paragraph 4.3 and 4.4 and appendix. 2.2, consider the area-based achievements and developments as detailed in the key achievements section of this report. Paragraph 4.5.1 to 4.5.7 and 2.3, consider any aspects of performance to be referred to the relevant service committee. Are members happy to agree the recommendations?
Happy to agree.
Thank you. And thank you, Liz. Item 7. (2023 to 2024) 6-month assessment. That's from 1st of April 23 to the 30th of September 2023 of Neighbourhood Services Service Plan 2023 to 2024. Report by Interim Head of Community Services. The next report is the 6-month assessment of Neighbourhood Services Service Plan. The report covers from the 1st of April to the 30th of September 2023. Again, it is good to see from the summary that all indicators are on track with a 2 or not half measured of the half-year report. It is good to see that Castle Douglas swimming pool has had an increase of 59.5% on the same period last year for attendances. It's encouraging to hear about the launch of the Active Lives pathway, where our council are working along with colleagues in NHS, Dumfries and Galloway to deliver an Active Lives programme which prioritises prevention, early intervention, rehab and enablement. And I'm also delighted to read about the variety of activity taking place in our customer service centre. I'd like to welcome Harry Hay, Head of Neighbourhood Services, who is available for members to ask questions. Members, any comments? Councillor McFarlane.
Yeah, thank you, Chair, and welcome, Harry. I didn't pick up on a typo in the last report, which referred to Nithsdale, when actually we're clearly here in Stewartry. However, in this one, 4.5.1.3, we've got 8 sessions delivered at Newton Stewart and Port William customer service centres, etc. So clearly we need to have a look at getting some of the accuracy around these, so I'd be grateful. The following paragraph, 4.5.1.4, talks about 110 children participated in the Summer Reading Challenge, an increase of 245%, which is really impressive. So I'd be interested to know how we've done that and what sort of positive steps we've taken, or has that just happened as a consequence? I do have a further question, but if I could have an answer on that one first, that'd be great.
Would you like to reply, Harry?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. And firstly, apologise for the error in the narrative. In terms of the increased number of participations in the reading initiative, it simply was down to increased promotion and also trying to get feedback from previous users on the types of activities that young people and their families would like to get involved with. So delighted to see that had the desired effect. Thank you, Chair.
Councillor McFarlane.
Yeah, thank you for that. And it'd be good if we could take that promotion and use it in some of our other services, not necessarily just in this one, because there are areas where sometimes we're falling a bit short. And if we can use some of those initiatives to try and get engagement, that would be excellent. The other point was around the community sort of customer service centres. Really good uptake. You know, there's lots of people going through them. Does that include the one in Kirkcudbright, which is run by volunteers, or is it purely based on the council-run ones? Thanks.
Harry?
Yeah, through you, Chair. The information contained within this particular performance report only includes council-delivered services. Moving forward, if members would find it useful, we'll certainly look at how we can broaden the sort of context in terms of other customer-based services that are delivered with partner agencies, if members found that useful. But the information contained within the report is specifically in relation to council-delivered services. Thank you, Chair.
And Councillor McFarlane, next
Yeah.
question.
Yeah, thank you, Harry. I would appreciate that because clearly we've removed some of the customer service centres and some of the information centres and such like. So it'd be good to get that fuller picture and gives a better perspective of what's happening locally. But thank you for that.
Thank you. Are there any other comments from those online? Councillor Young? Or
Thank you, Chair. It's more an observation than a question. A note on page 61, 4.5.1.7. There's been 63 births and 160 deaths in the Stewartry recorded. Now, that would seem to indicate the population of the Stewartry is falling, but it doesn't. These bare figures don't take into account the fact that a lot of people seem to come to the Stewartry for, let's say, later in their lives to add to the population of the Stewartry. But it's a bit concerning in terms of our schools that there seems to be so few births now in the Stewartry. It's just an observation. Thank you.
Harry, would you like to reply to that?
The information that has been included in this report is simply those events that have been registered by the registration service. Clearly, in terms of wider demographic, when we're looking at census material, etc., as part of the sort of wider council's planning, the registration information is simply just one facet of what is looked at, and as the councillor mentioned, this certainly does not include people that have relocated to Dumfries and Galloway or indeed the Stewartry area. This is purely those that are registered within the Stewartry, and the registration service looks purely at that. So it's simply one element of a far wider demographic, I would suggest. Thank you.
Councillor Young, are you satisfied with that answer?
No, I'm quite happy with that answer. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Good, thank you. Councillor Howie?
And it's just to commend the work that's resulted with this 60% uplift of visits to Castle Douglas swimming pool. Obviously, these are the kind of numbers we're going to need if these facilities are going to remain viable. So it's just to congratulate staff in achieving that result.
Thank you. Councillor Campbell?
Thank you, Chair. Good morning, Harry. The question is around 4.5.5 financial wellbeing in revenues. I found this particular paragraph both heartwarming but also really disturbing when you see it written starkly the number of adults and children that are receiving support from the council around council tax reduction, free school meals, crisis grant payments, etc. And I think it's great that as a council we've got cross-party support to continue this level of support for people that are struggling. But my specific question is the last sentence in that paragraph about 9 clients in the Stewartry temporary accommodation and 46 homeless applications as of the 30th of September last year. And I think this points to a lack of available housing in the Stewartry. So I'd be interested to know what plans are being developed to try and address this. And is this an issue that cuts across all our localities, or is there a particular problem in the Stewartry that we need to be focusing on? Thank you.
Harry, can you reply?
Yeah, I can indeed. Thank you, Chair. Yeah, what I would say, and for those members that sit on the Communities Committee, we regularly report on financial wellbeing, revenues, homelessness and housing options on the region-wide perspective, but we thought it would be useful at an area committee level to provide some more localised detail. And the situation is certainly consistent across Dumfries and Galloway, that the number of homeless applications has increased, and the staff, despite that, are doing a fantastic job to try and do as much as we can to mitigate and deal with the consequences of that. So I think the issues, whilst very, very complicated, can be looked at twofold. There's an increase in the number of applications, and also there is a well documented challenge in terms of available housing and accommodation. And it's certainly something that, in conjunction with colleagues in strategic housing, that we are working very hard to try and highlight and ensure that from a strategic housing investment programme perspective, the needs of residents in Dumfries and Galloway, particularly through social housing, is very much factored into the strategic planning in relation to that. And I know that colleagues in registered social landlords, for example, also recognise the issue, the collective challenge that we need to try and overcome. When it comes to the homeless service, there really needs to be that collective accountability and responsibility for dealing with homelessness. Ideally, we want to be able to do it in a proactive way to stop individuals from becoming homeless in the first instance. And some of the investment the council continues to make in the welfare and housing options team, for example, does exactly that. So we ensure that the team engages with a family or an individual as early as possible to try and prevent the situation escalating that then needs to be dealt with as a homeless application, and that works extremely well. But nonetheless, we continue to work with partners and other council services to make sure that the availability of housing in Dumfries and Galloway is much of a reflection of what we need as it possibly can be. But again, this is certainly not, I'm sure members will be aware, this is certainly not just a Dumfries and Galloway challenge. It's something that's playing out on a national basis as well. Hopefully that background is helpful. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Harry. Would you like to respond, Councillor Campbell?
Yes, please, Chair. Thanks for that response, Harry. It goes without saying the value that we all hold the team that work in this particular area. They do a great job. But just a further brief question. Will future communities committee meetings have a locality breakdown of the data? Because I think it would be helpful for to see the picture across the whole of the region.
Yeah, thanks through you, Chair. Yeah, absolutely. The normal approach we take at Communities Committee is that the level of detail for revenues, welfare, homelessness and housing options is broken down on a ward basis, which I think is a really, really good illustration of how the regional figures are compiled. So quite happy to share that with any member, whether you're part of Communities Committee or not. Quite happy to get the team to circulate that. Thanks very much, Chair.
Thank you, Harry. If we can move to recommendations. Members are asked to 2.1 review the 2023-2024 6-month summary performance for the Stewartry area for the 1st of April 2023 to the 30th of September 2023, as set out in paragraphs 4.3 and 4.4 and appendix. 2.2, consider the area-based achievements and developments as detailed in the key achievements section of this report, paragraph 4.5.1 to 4.5.5, and 2.3, consider any aspects of performance to be referred to the relevant service committee. Are members happy to agree the recommendations?
Agreed.
Thank you. Harry, thank you again for your participation. Would Everybody like to take a comfort break, or should we carry on? What would your preference be? Yep, well, let's take a comfort break. Can we take a 5-minute comfort break? And then we'll carry on with item 8. On to item agenda 8. 2023 to 2024 6-month assessment from the 1st of April 2023 to the 30th of September 2023 of Roads and Infrastructure Service Plan 23 to 2024, report by Interim Head of Community Services. There are no performance measures specific to the Stewartry area in this report. It's pleasing to see the progress of the inclusive play park in Castle Douglas and the update and expected timescale for the installation of the changing places toilets. I'd like to welcome Karen Brownlee, Interim Head of Roads and Infrastructure, is available to answer any questions from members. I'll open the floor to members and questions, comments. Members, any comments? Yep, please.
I just wish to express my pleasement with the inclusivity of the play parks, as many members of my family as well as associates do suffer from accessibility issues. However, I wish to inquire if there is any movement for these inclusivity in play parks and those sorts of accommodations to be done in schools, especially primary schools, as I know many of them are not fit for students who have things like wheelchairs or other mobility issues. Thank you.
Thank you. Would you like to respond, Karen?
Thank you very much, Chair, through you. Thanks very much for the question, Stuart. That's very welcome indeed, and thank you for your positive comments in terms of the inclusive play area in Castle Douglas, which I'll pass back to the team who've been working with the community and principal partners in relation to that development. In relation to inclusive play pieces of equipment within schools, officers across the council work closely with our education colleagues to encourage any replacement of equipment should be with or could be with, depending on the school and the parent council's views, but should be with inclusive pieces of equipment. So officers within the community assets team are actively, and the ward officer team are actively working with schools across the region. But if there's any specifics, I would be happy to pick that conversation up with you offline. Thank you.
Okay, Councillor Drysdale.
Yeah, thanks very much for the report, Karen, and all the work that's been done in Castle Douglas Play Park. I know that the benches managed to get moved to make the park run more accessible because they were causing a blockage, and I just wondered if they'd been managed to be put on a hard surfacing. That was my first question, but thank you to the teams, for the assets team, for doing that so promptly when requested. And I also just wanted to talk a bit about the new activities that are taking place in many other countries around the world at the moment. And it's a lot to do with what's happening with the active pathways for activity and across generational activities, massive now. And I know our climate doesn't really help towards that in the winter. But because our winters are more rainy and darker, we're desperate to get outside in the spring, summer and autumn. And what we're seeing in parks across the rest of the world are flatted areas next to these types of parks we are building now, whereby adults and elderly people can lift weights and move whilst children and young people are actually doing their playtime activities. Now, these are challenging things to do because there's a bit of trust involved with equipment, whether it's weights, loose weights, etc. But I've brought some videos and some photographs of some research I've been doing, and I'd be really keen to share that with you, Karen, because I think for Dumfries and Galloway Council and working in partnership with the IJB and the NHS, this is going to have to be the way forward. We're having so many people suffering from SAD at the moment, and using special lighting, and for preventative cure and medicine we need to look at more outside activity, which we're doing for children, but we're not doing it very well for adults and people over 50. So I'll share that with you after the meeting, Karen. It might be something that the council can use some funding for, because it's massively encouraging work, and it's fantastic, and you see it in a lot of cities across the world and towns. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Drysdale. I think that's an important question. And Karen, would you like to reply?
Thank you very much, Chair, through you. Thank you for the questions, Councillor Drysdale. The first point in relation to the benches at Lochside Park, I'll pass your gratitude back to the local team there. I'm aware certainly that they removed and have replaced benches. I'm not quite sure whether they're on hard standing at this current time, but I can certainly find that out and come back to yourself in relation to that. Regarding your second point in relation to sort of cross-generational activities, and I think that's a really key point going forward, and you mentioned, you know, work with the IGB, NHS and certainly leisure and sport colleagues, and I am aware of a few projects across the region whereby outdoor gyms for adults have been installed, and certainly part of one of the inclusive play developments in another area, there was a few pieces of equipment for outdoor gyms installed in that area. So it's definitely something that as a service we can work with communities on, and I would be happy to have a further discussion with you after the meeting. Thank you.
That's great. Thank you. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you, Karen. Did you want to respond? No? In that case, over to Councillor Howie.
Thanks, Chair. Karen, the national implementation of 20 miles per hour for urban areas, I believe it's meant to be coming in 2025, next year. Now, some communities are more enthused than others for this, but one community that we have that is very keen is Crossmichael, and it's just to see what we can do to progress them to the top of the list of implementation against communities who have not express the same enthusiasm, can we say? Would it be possible to do it on the community's desire to prioritise how it's implemented?
Thank you. Karen?
Thank you very much, through you, Chair. Thank you for your question, Councillor Howie. I don't know the specific detail in relation to the rollout and the process of the 20 mile per hour limits within our communities, but more than happy to take that back to the local team and ask them to feed directly back to you, if that would be okay. Thank you.
Okay. I understand in Wales that they are talking about having a national speed limit of 20 miles per hour in towns, and I know that there are those who are unhappy about it, but this is certainly going to become more of a debate in Scotland. Councillor McFarlane.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. And Karen, it's probably not something that you can give me an answer to just now, and it'd be interesting to get other members' views on it. But this report is the roads and infrastructure. I'm sure we all get complaints about the state of the roads and the potholes and such like. And it'd be really interesting to know, to take back to communities and community councils what we've done, how much, you know, what sort of volume we've sort of done, or what sort of areas we're doing. And I know that we get the road programme out every week, but a big issue is how we're going to deal with the roads. And in particular, you'll have come across Tongland Bridge this morning on your way here, no doubt. And I've been asked to go to, or I'm due to go to the next Ringford and Tongland Community Council, whereby one of the issues they've asked us to address is the state of that road there. Some of the roads we have are very good, but unfortunately where they're deteriorating, they're getting very bad. And it would be interesting, you know, it says here that there's no performance measures specific to Stewartry area, but it would be really interesting for us to get some sort of performance data in relation to the state of the roads and what we are doing to try and address them, so we can offer some sort of reassurance. Thanks.
I would support that, Councillor McFarlane. That community councils and constituents are raising these concerns about roads and potholes, and it would be helpful for us to be able to answer their questions. Karen, would you like to respond?
Thank you very much, Chair. Thank you, Councillor McFarlane, for your questions. I do acknowledge that the report in front of you today is quite limited in information, and I'm more than happy to take your thoughts in relation to receiving a more up-to-date position that you can feed back to community councils and wider communities in relation to the current work that's ongoing on roads and I guess the next steps in relation to that sort of project plan. So happy to take that back to the service and ask the service to update members. Thank you.
Thank you, Karen. Councillor Campbell.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. It's just on that point made by Councillor McFarlane, Kirkcudbright Community Council have also raised the condition on the approaches to Tongland Bridge, both from Kirkcudbright and from Tongland. And I think this has been going on for about 18 months. And, you know, when we go to community councils, and we all know this, there's always a huge focus from the community councillors on potholes. And, you know, there's only so many times we can say, well, we're investing, we're spending all these millions, but they're not seeing the difference. So just to agree to the request from Councillor McFarlane, I think we want to respond to constituents, but we also know the challenges facing the roads department, but it puts us in the middle in a really, really difficult position. So I think to have that a bit more context on what's happening and when it's going to happen would help us, and I think would help the roads department as well, because it would mean they're getting less sporadic emails from members looking for potholes to be repaired.
Appreciate that point being raised, Councillor Campbell. Karen, would you like to respond?
Thank you very much, Chair, and thank you, Councillor Campbell, for your questions and comments. I didn't say previously, but happy also to take back the issue of the Tongland Bridge specifically to the road services. As I say, I will speak to Stephen Hall, who's the interim roads and infrastructure head of service and roads and infrastructure, in relation to being a little bit more proactive in relation to providing members with that level of detail going forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Karen. Councillor Lowe.
Thank you. Just to follow up this item, I actually asked the same question at Nithsdale Area Committee last week and was assured, and I've actually spoke to the director myself, that this is going to be progressed. We have to be a bit careful with Abbey Ward because of the split, but they're going to try and ensure that it is done correctly for each area level. Thanks.
Thank you for clarifying that, and we'll make a note. Can we move forward then to the recommendation and members are asked to 2.1, review the 2023 to 2024 six-month summary performance for the Stewartry area for the 1st of April 2023 to the 30th of September 2023, as set out in paragraph 4.3 and 4.4 and appendix. 2.2, consider the area-based achievements and developments as detailed in the key achievements section of this report, paragraph 4.5.1 to 4.5.2. And 2.3, consider any aspects of performance to be referred to the relevant service committee. Are members happy to agree the recommendations?
Happy to read.
Thank you, Karen, for joining us this morning. We'll now move on to item 9. Okay, we'll now move on to item 9, 2023 to 2024 six-month assessment for the 1st of April 2023 to the 30th of September 2023 of Governance and Assurance Service Plan 2023 to 2024. Report by the Interim Head of Community Services. Item number 9 on our agenda is the half-year report, April to September 2023, assessment of the Governance and Assurance Plan. The plan contains no performance measures specific to Wigtown area. There are no performance measures specific to the Stewartry area in this report. Key features are around establishment of curator ad litem scheme and the review of polling station workplaces and the refresh of corporate resilience and business continuity arrangements. We'd like to welcome Sandra Harkness, Head of Governance and Assurance, is available to answer members' questions, and I'll open the floor to any questions and comments. Councillor McFarlane.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Only comment is, why do we have this paper at all? If there's no information relevant to Stewartry area and it's a Stewartry area committee, why is this paper even here?
Sandra, could I ask you to respond?
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, I appreciate that there is nothing local in this paper. However, it is important that we have an opportunity to report to local elected members. It's just the case that there didn't happen to be anything to report on this instance.
Thank you. Would you like to reply?
Yeah, thank you for that, but clearly I think this is a waste of your time and ours.
Thank you. That point is noted. Are there any other questions or comments? If not, then we'll move to recommendations. Members are asked to 2.1 review the 2023 to 2024 6-month summary performance for the Stewartry area for 1st of April 2023 to 30th of September 2023, as set out in paragraph 4.3 and 4.4 and appendix 2.2. Consider the area-based achievements and developments as detailed in the key achievements section of this report. Paragraph 4.5.1 to 4.5.3 and 2.3. Consider any aspects of performance to be referred to the relevant service committee. Are members happy to agree the recommendations? Agreed. Thank you. Sandra Harkness, thank you for your time this morning. Moving on to item 10. Outside Bodies Annual Review 2023. Report by Head of Governance and Assurance. Our next report is a review of outside bodies, and members are asked to consider whether any current organisations and appointments should be removed from the scheme of outside bodies as a result of the information contained within the appendix. Those members with direct involvement in the outside bodies will possibly have the most relevant comments and observations. I'll take any members' comments on each of the organisations listed. I'll hand over now to Tracy Sonko, Governance Officer, is here to respond to members' questions. Members, any comments? If not, then we'll move to recommendations. 2.1, note the activities undertaken by each outside body since appointments were made in 2022, where representation has remained stable for 12 months. That's the appendix. And 2.2, agree whether any of the appointments should continue following review or whether any outside bodies should be removed from the scheme of outside bodies. Are members happy to agree the recommendations?
Are we just confirming that they're all continuing?
Do we all want to confirm that we're happy for them to all continue?
I'm happy to continue.
Thank you, Tracy, for your participation this morning. Moving on to item 11. Stewartry discretionary budget performance monitoring for 23-24. Report by Interim Head of Community Services. Our next report, members, is the monitoring report on the 25 projects receiving support from the Stewartry Area Committee discretionary budget. It is good to see that the budget continues to provide significant impact for our local communities, and members will note the significant impact in their wards and the wider area. Members will also note that there is a sum of £6,138.52, which the report is recommending for carry forward to the discretionary grants fund for 24-25. Sean O'Toole, Ward Officer, is here to answer members' questions and comments. I'll open the floor to members for questions and comments. We'll now move forward to recommendations. Members are asked to 2.1 note the performance monitoring information from projects, initiatives that receive support from the Stewartry Area Committee discretionary budget in 2023-24, detailed in the appendix. 2.2, note that a significant number of citizens have benefited from the delivery of 25 local projects and initiatives, and £48,038.48 was awarded to projects, initiatives in the local Stewartry area. And 2.3, agree to close the remaining open funds and carry forward the remaining balance of £7,138.52, or the amount at time of closing, from the 2023-24 discretionary budget to the 2024-25 budget, as outlined in paragraph 4.6. Are members happy to agree the recommendations? Agreed. Thank you, and thank you to Sean. Item 12, any other business deemed urgent by the Chairman due to the need for a decision. I have no further business, so that concludes the meeting. Could I thank you all for your contributions? Our next meeting will be held on Wednesday the 15th, 2024. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you, Chair.